Want to hear your conversation with Leslie after the show? Go to lesliemarshallshow.com/members.
Hey there, America. I'm Leslie Marshall. Welcome or welcome back. Only true democracy in talk radio of, for, and by you, the people. We have a very big election coming up in November. Democrats trying to hold on to the Senate, trying to gain the House, and if they can't gain control of the House, gain as many seats as possible. Our guest in this hour is somebody who many of you are fans of, for something very different. And a lot of people were shocked when he made an announcement that he is running for office. I thought it was pretty awesome. His name is Clay Aiken. More than a pleasure to have him with us tonight. Clay, is it okay that I call you Clay, or do you prefer Mr. Aiken?
Please call me Clay, yes.
Okay, I like that. Somebody already who's more reachable than a lot of the politicians out there. First of all, you know, Clay, there are people out there who say, Clay Aiken, he can sing, he's come out, and now he's running for Congress. He can sing. He's a great singer, and, he can sell records. But what does he know about politics? And I have to say, I thought that myself until I looked at your background. First of all, I want to talk about your experience briefly as a teacher in the great state of North Carolina, and not only a teacher, but a special education teacher. And I say that because there are a lot of fights that go on with regard to education, and certainly that comes up with the budget and the fight between left and right, often the right having a hatchet in their hand.
Well, my experience as a teacher kind of, to me, parallels part of the reason that I'm running. I started in the classroom as a substitute teacher, and I was asked to go into the classroom for children with autism and serve as a substitute teacher for a teacher who was on maternity leave, and she was supposed to be gone for just 2 months. And while I was in the classroom, the teacher left, and the class was left with just me. And so I stayed for another year and the rest of the school year and another full year after that, because I saw these kids who were being ignored or who were being left without an advocate or no one standing up for them, and it just upset me that someone could walk away. And so I have kind of paralleled that to what has happened to my state and my district in Congress. We elected a congresswoman. The people elected a congresswoman who went up to Congress and then checked out, at least of the district, and started taking votes and casting votes that completely went against what the needs of the people in this district were. And that's frustrated me just as much, if not more, than that 2 months in the classroom where I saw these kids being ignored.
You were running as a Democrat, which I'm happy about. I am a Democrat, as a Democratic candidate for Congress, and you are running in the 2nd Congressional District in North Carolina. Clay, how contested is that district among Democrats? How many are you up against, and what are your opposition like?
In the primary?
Mm-hmm.
In the primary, there were 4, including me. One has thrown his support behind me and is helping in our campaign. But there are 2 others, and this district has got this amount of opposition and this amount of energy in the primary because people know not only how vulnerable this other candidate is, the incumbent is, but how little she has done for the district. I think the primary is contested mainly. The differences between myself and the other candidates is the ability to get enthusiasm and to excite voters to show up to the polls, and to get people to pay attention to this race. This is a district that has been gerrymandered, to use the word that I don't necessarily like to throw around, but it's true, has been drawn to be more favorable to a conservative candidate. And I think that one of the reasons that I'm very energized about getting into the race is that in 2012, the incumbent ran and did not really have strong opposition and did not have to be responsible and be accountable for the things that she had done in Congress. And as people see what she's done, and as people recognize that she has taken votes and cast votes that have hurt military families. I mean, this is the largest. If there's a district in the country that has a larger military presence than the 2nd District of North Carolina with Fort Bragg in it, I don't know what it is. And she's cast votes that have hurt military families, and if people see that, I think that they recognize that she's not voting for the people in her district. And so I think the differentiation between myself and the primary opponents is simply the ability to bring awareness to what she's done.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with our guest, Clay Aiken, who announced, and I'm going to share what he said in his announcement when we come back because it's powerful and I want to ask him about this. You can watch his campaign announcement. Go to clayaiken.com. That's CLAYAIKEN. Also follow Clay on Twitter, at Clay Aiken, and on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Clay for North Carolina. Once again, our guest in this hour is Mr. Clay Aiken, a North Carolina special education teacher. Many of you know him as he became an internationally recognized recording artist. He announced last week that he will run as a Democratic candidate for the United States Congress of America in the 2nd Congressional District in the great state of North Carolina. We'll talk more with him about that district. We'll talk more about what he plans to do to improve things for his district, unlike the incumbent. We'll be back. I'm Leslie Marshall. Don't go away. You want to join us? 888-6-LESLIE. Tweet us. Follow me on Twitter at Leslie Marshall. More after this.
Keep Leslie in your pocket. Go to lesliemarshallshow.com/members.
I'm Leslie Marshall. Welcome or welcome back. Only true democracy in talk radio. Joining us tonight, Mr. Clay Aiken, who has announced his candidacy for Congress in North Carolina's 2nd District. Clay, thank you for holding, and welcome back. I wanted to share with you some tweets that were actually very positive about a non-politician. Because, first of all, as you know, Clay, name recognition is huge. So the fact that you have that certainly doesn't, hurt any. There are some people that, make some jokes about you having been a runner-up or, singing happy birthday. But Scarlett tweets, I'm all for it about non-politicians running for Congress, but then they become politicians. They just can't help it. I think she makes a somewhat decent point where, people are running because they want to make a difference and they want to be different. How do you assure people who are going to cast their vote for you that you're not going to become like so many other non-politicians who end up, jumping on the bandwagon?
I guess experience is an example. It really is the best answer I can give to that. My mother was worried when I did Idol that I was going to go to Hollywood and then change and not be the same person that I was because I was going to let Hollywood ruin me. And I went to L.A., stayed for about 2 years, didn't want to be in that environment because it wasn't me. I moved back home to North Carolina because that's where I feel comfortable. That's home. That's who I am. I went to Hollywood. I still worked in it. I didn't let it change me. And I'm not going to let D.C. do the same thing either. I mean, I'm going to have the exact same response there. I'm the same guy I was before Idol, and I'll be the same guy I am after I am in D.C. and in Congress.
Drew tweets, aren't most politicians non-politicians before they first run? We need less career politicians in Congress. So I got another one supporting your run there, Clay. Hopefully he lives in the 2nd District in North Carolina. Right. But no, that is true. I mean, not everybody is a politician and not everybody becomes a career politician. It's obviously where their path takes them. I want to read something that you said in your release last week. Quote, for most Americans, there are no golden tickets, at least not like the kind you see on TV. More families are struggling today than at any time in our history. And here in North Carolina, we've suffered more than our share of pain. Talk to us about that. Is that in the way, because it's a heavily military district, and we'll get to that in a second, but they're suffering with regard to jobs, suffering with regard to cuts in food stamps and other things in that district?
Well, in the state of North Carolina in general, unemployment benefits, which were not extended by the U.S. Congress, we know, have not only been cut back, but they've been cut down to minuscule amounts in North Carolina, much smaller than what they were before before the Republican legislature took over in this state. Food stamps have been, all subsidies, all types of help for working families have been cut back. North Carolina is one of the states that did not expand Medicare to serve people who needed health care and were not able to get it on the exchanges or not able to get it through Medicaid. So Medicaid was not expanded in this state. In the district itself, like you said, it is pretty heavily military. The unemployment rate for the average unemployment rate is around 7% in the state, but it's 11% amongst veterans. And that has a lot to do with the fact that we're not preparing. Our vets are coming back from service better trained than most to do so many things than most people get in colleges and community colleges, and we're not providing the ability for them to get certified in the types of jobs that they need. We're not providing the training to reintegrate them into the workforce here in the U.S. And that to me is really sort of sickening. You know, I think about the people. My brother's a veteran. It took him far longer to find a job after he left, after 2 tours in Iraq and after he left his service, far longer to find a job than it should have. And these are people who have risked their lives for us. We have to do better for them.
Absolutely. Clay, you are somebody who I feel has been very transparent and an open book, especially in the past years, and obviously that's going to be necessary running for public office. So I hope you're okay with this question, and if not, we'll move on. This is a very military district, as you said, and I'm wondering if, one, because the military is very Republican heavy normally and conservative, and two, certain degrees of homophobia within that complex, the military complex. Being that you're a Democrat and being that you're an openly gay Democrat, and I commend you for coming out, Clay, do you have the support in your district from the military? Is that something they don't care about? They just want somebody who's going to do more for them in Washington?
You know, I have to say I don't necessarily believe that I accept the premise or the belief that the military is more Republican heavy. Parts of this district that are military heavy vote Democratic. Big swaths of the geographical area that Fort Bragg is in vote Democratic. The military wants someone to serve them who pays attention to their needs. That's the bottom line. At the end of the day, I don't think that many people vote based on a party. They vote based on a person and the ideas and who they trust. You know, if you pay attention to politics a lot, which obviously you have to do, and to some extent I am doing now more, you kind of get caught up in this notion that people are solely living on the end zones of the field. And most Americans live within 20 yards of the 50-yard line, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And politicians are in the end zones, and they're not representing people who are in the middle. That's where Americans are. You know, I don't think my brother and I told you my brother was a Marine, served proudly. His friends, when I came out, were some of the most supportive. The military is not as homophobic as I think some people would like to believe it is. You know, like I said, the people who serve our country and fight for our country are the most mature and professional workforce, if you want to call it that, in the world, and they don't let things like that bother them. And I think that there's a misperception of that.
Okay, let's take some calls, and we go to Wisconsin with Carol. Carol, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Question or comment? I know you wanted to talk about Clay's work with charities, and I do want to point out that he founded the National Inclusion Project that serves children with special needs, not only in the state of North Carolina, but 34 other states. I'm very impressed by that. Carol, I know you are as well. Question or comment for Mr. Clay Aiken tonight?
Clay,
welcome.
I followed your career, and I think you're a very intelligent and brave person to run for office in North Carolina. You've accomplished so many wonderful things, and that's why I was calling. I wish you would tell about your foundation, the National Inclusion Project, dedicated to promoting the inclusion of children with disabilities and activities with their non-disabled peers. I think that's just so wonderful.
And before you do that, Clay, I do want people to know that even though you are a Democrat and running as a Democrat, in 2006, a Republican president, George W. Bush, appointed you to a 2-term on the Presidential Committee for People with Intellectual Disabilities. And you said, quote, "That was when I first realized that our problems won't be solved by only one party or the other." We'll get back to that, but let's talk about Carol's request for you to talk a bit more about all the work that you've done with children with disabilities and your foundation.
Well, thank you, Carol, for giving me the chance to talk about it. The National Inclusion Project is something that I started right after I did IDLE because there was a groundswell of support from people who were following me and supporting me in that show to get involved in some of the things that I cared about. And we do work. Carol did an incredible job of stating the mission for us. We do work to include kids with disabilities into programs like summer camps and after-school programs and extracurricular activities. There's federal law, IDEA Act that requires that children with disabilities are included with their non-disabled peers in educational settings, but there's no requirement for children to be included with their non-disabled peers in non-school settings and in extracurricular settings. And we want to encourage that because kids with disabilities learn more. They thrive in settings when they are included with their non-disabled peers, and kids without disabilities end up having so much more exposure to diversity when they're and they grow so much more when they're around children with disabilities. So we've had a lot of success with partnering with summer camps, after-school programs, soccer programs, etc., that type of thing throughout the country.
Let's take another call, and we go to Honolulu with Daily Dave. Daily Dave, aloha. Question or comment for Mr. Clay Aiken?
Aloha, Leslie. Thank you very much. Mr. Aiken, how do you do?
I'm doing well.
Good. Congratulations on your run. I have friends that years ago moved down to Raleigh and Cary. I guess it's like a Tri-City area. And went down to visit. I found Raleigh to be a very progressive city. Just, lots of, a vibrant nightlife and so forth. Outside of the urban setting, how do you modulate, let's say, progressive, let's say, Democrat, viewpoint within a Bible Belt state? I mean, I realize that you can't necessarily run as a New York Democrat, but you can't. I suppose you can't really run like a California Republican either.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not exactly sure I don't know what a California Republican is, but at the same time,
I just made that up.
I got to go back to what I said before. That I don't think people identify as much with party as it's easy to put voters in boxes, all people in boxes. This particular district, while it's largely rural, and it is Cary, Asheboro, parts of Fayetteville, Sanford, Southern Pines, Pinehurst, Siler City. I mean, a lot of rural areas as well. A lot of the people, there are a lot of independents registered in this district. And at the end of the day, most people are really just frustrated with the fact that everyone in Washington wants to make it about Republican or Democrat. Everyone who follows politics seems to want to make everything Republicans versus Democrats. To use an American Idol analogy, I say that Reuben didn't have to lose for me to win. I didn't have to lose for Reuben to win. We could both be successful on Idol, after Idol as well. In politics, the only way it seems like there's this belief that the only way that I can win is if someone else loses. And that mentality has got to go. That mentality of the only way that the Democrats can be successful is if the Republicans lose, or the only way the Republicans will be successful is the Democrats lose. That mentality is what is keeping us from getting anything done. When either side always tries to just blame everything on the other one instead of actually doing good. My entire life I have spent trying to do the best, be the best me I can be, do the best that I can do, put forth the best product or the best example, and hope that people agree with me and follow me. I don't spend my time trying to bash the other side in order to make myself look good. And we've got to get rid of that mentality. So even in a rural area, even in a rural district, people are sick of that culture. And what they really want is people to go up there and work and do something for America. Get people back to work. Help them pay for their school for their kids. Get people, take care of our veterans. These are things that matter. And at the end of the day, what party party someone belongs to, I think is a lot less important to voters than some people would like to make it.
Dave, thank you. Excellent question, and Clay for a great response. Two things. On the heels of that, when you said after being appointed by President George W. Bush, quote, "That was when I first realized that our problems won't be solved by only one party or the other." Americans feel that way too, with their very poor approval rating, or favorability level, which is extremely low, almost non-existent, of Congress. Will that mean that you'll work hard for Democrats, but work hard as a Democrat to work with Republicans because that's the only way you can get something done?
I'm not going to work hard for either party. I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I'm going to go up and work hard for the people who elect me to Congress. I'm going to go up there and work hard for the people who put me there and the people who don't vote for me, to be honest with you. I think oftentimes, too much, people go up to Congress and they represent the folks who voted for them, and the people who voted for the other guy can just, go sit down and wait. And that's not the way I think it should be done either. It's called representative because that's what you're supposed to do, is represent. And so I'm not going to go up there and work hard for any party. I'm going to go up and work hard for the people who put me in Congress and the people in this district. And
I think Congresswoman Elmers did not with voting to shut down the government, which would certainly hurt your district. The 2nd Congressional District, would you say it's one of the most likely targets for a Democratic victory over a Republican incumbent in 2014?
I think that the 2nd District has one of the most vulnerable Republicans in the country, and I think she's vulnerable because she has gone to Washington and she's lined up behind her party and she's voted the way her party leaders have told her, and she has not paid attention to the people who she was elected to represent, and that's why she's vulnerable.
And you and being in a heavy military district, and your brother having been a Marine, you also, in spending time with UNICEF, have traveled to war zones, Afghanistan, Somalia. You have seen what war does, not only to our military, but to the people in those countries, which I think makes you more educated as a congressional member if you have to make a vote on funding for another nation, helping another nation, going to war with another nation, or what we do if there is a war in another nation.
I mean, we have to make sure we're taking care of the people within our borders, and we have to make sure that is our priority. That said, one of the ways that we can be threatened as a country and as a people is if we allow different groups to bloom and foster that type of terrorist environment in countries that are vulnerable. So places like Somalia, where we see Al-Shabaab in the southern part of the country growing stronger and stronger every day. We've got to stop that, and one of the ways to do that is to make sure that we are supporting children and educational programs in other countries. Making sure that we can be proactive about problems so that we're not having to be reactive is a better use of our resources, because I want to have the strongest military in the world, and I don't want to put them in harm's way. And in order to do that, we need to fund the military, fund our soldiers, our Marines, our airmen, our Navy, our seamen, and at the same time, we need to make sure that we are a part of a larger world, and we are fostering relationships and fostering these countries to make sure that we don't end up in military engagements with them.
Clay, it's been more than a pleasure. You actually impressed me tonight, and I hear a lot of politicians talk, and I think good luck to you there. I think you can do it, and I certainly hope you do. I do want a Democratic seat for a Republican seat anytime I can get it, because I am a Democrat. But check out Clay's announcement. Again, ClayAiken.com. That's AIKEN. If you don't already know, follow him on Twitter at ClayAiken and at Facebook.com/Clay4NC. And that's Clay for North Carolina. He's running for Congress, as I mentioned, in the 2nd district of that great state. A Republican seat holds it right now, and it's up for grabs, and hopefully he will grab it. Thank you for joining us. We'll take a break. We'll be back. Talk Radio News Service live from our nation's capital right after this. Don't go away.
Leslie Marshall. Real people, real life, real talk. Give her a call now at 888-6-LESLIE.